special report.
Good afternoon. I'm Whit Johnson in New York. We're coming on the air because House Republicans have just delivered a major victory for President Trump, passing his mega spending bill. Final passage coming after an intense pressure campaign from the president, at times even threatening to primary holdout Republicans in both the Senate and the House. There you see Speaker Mike Johnson gaveling that win. He worked around the clock to cross this threshold here. Many of his party's holdouts flipping overnight, ultimately voting yes on the bill. Conservatives and moderates, though, raising some concerns ahead of this vote about cuts to Medicaid, which will cause an estimated 11.8 million Americans to lose their health care. Some also concerned about the price tag, expected to add $3.4 trillion to the debt. President Trump has disputed those estimates. The bill includes more spending for the president's immigration policies and roughly $4 trillion in tax cuts. The bill passing without any Democratic support. House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries is taking to the floor for what's known as the magic minute. He ended up speaking for more than 8.5 hours, breaking a modern-day record, railing against the bill, warning it will have a devastating impact on millions of Americans. President Trump calling this one of the most consequential bills ever. Let's go to Mary Bruce, our chief White House correspondent, with more. Mary, we know this July 4th deadline was self-imposed by the president. We noted that pressure campaign. Ultimately, only 2 Republicans voted against it. So what did it take to get this over the finish line, and what does this mean for Trump's agenda?
Well, Whit, there is no question. This is a massive victory, a huge win for President Trump, by far his biggest legislative victory so far in his second term. But this did not come easy. The president and Speaker Johnson had to put down a Republican revolt. This took a lot of arm twisting, cajoling, and haggling. The president deeply involved himself. He's been working the phones over the last 24 hours, even meeting here at the White House with the holdouts in person. Whit, at one point, he was even handing out Trump merchandise and swag. And of course, the president was willing to give them assurances, especially about how this bill will be implemented, but he also warned that there would be consequences for any Republicans who opposed this. We have heard him in recent days and weeks say that he would primary anyone who got in the way of his agenda. So those Republicans who voiced concerns, one by one, we saw them caving and falling in line over the last 24 hours, despite many of their objections and concerns over what this bill would do to the debt, the $3.4 trillion it's projected to add to the debt over the next decade. Their concerns about what this would mean for Medicaid recipients, the estimated 11.8 million Americans that could lose their health coverage because of this bill. All of them, except for 2 Republicans, falling in line. Now, this is the cornerstone of the president's agenda. You can guarantee there's a lot of celebrating here at the White House right now. In addition, of course, to what this does for taxes, cutting roughly $4 trillion in taxes, mostly for the wealthiest Americans. It also includes more funding, as you mentioned, for immigration enforcement and border security. It also fulfills some of his campaign promises to eliminate taxes on tips and overtime. But Whit, now that he has sold Republicans on this, the president now has to go out and sell the American people on this bill, and it starts tonight with a big speech he's giving in Iowa.
It sure does, Mary Bruce. And again, as you illustrated, also points out the amount of power that he holds over the Republican Party. Mary, thank you once again. Let's go to ABC's congressional correspondent Jay O'Brien on the Hill. And Jay, I want to talk about the Democrats here because House Democratic leader Hakeem Jeffries, we talked about that marathon, that record-breaking speech on the House floor. He warned all of us that he was going to take his sweet time. He said he felt obligated to do so. But Democrats were powerless. They just didn't have the votes. So what message was he hoping to send here?
Exactly right, Whit. Jeffries spoke for 8 hours and 44 minutes, breaking a record for longest House floor speech that was previously set by Kevin McCarthy, who was speaking at the time in opposition in 2021 to a Biden-era piece of legislation. Democrats elated by his speech, but ultimately, as you said, they did not have the votes to block this bill. They are not in the majority. Speaker Johnson, though, he had his work cut out for him. He could only afford to lose 3 Republicans. As Mary said, he lost 2 on 2 different ideological sides of his party. One is Thomas Massie, who's a fiscal hawk who did not like the price tag of this bill. The other is Brian Fitzpatrick, a moderate Republican who represents a district in Pennsylvania that Kamala Harris won, who has long expressed concerns about cuts to Medicaid. Ultimately, though, those are the only 2 Republican no votes that Johnson loses. And this is the culmination of a months-long process, not just for Speaker Johnson, not just for President Trump, but congressional Republicans writ large. Multiple marathon into-the-night votes in both the House and the Senate, backroom negotiation, deal-making, and, frankly, drama and dysfunction in their party on full display in both of these votes. But they pull it off, and they pull it off right before that self-imposed Friday, July 4th deadline from the president.
A long night on Capitol Hill, and Jay, I know you're awake through most of it. We appreciate you and the entire team. Thank you. Once again, our breaking news right now, the House passing President Trump's sweeping spending bill, that big, beautiful bill. We're going to return you now to regular programming. Of course, our coverage does continue on ABC News Live and abcnews.com. And then I'll be right back here with the entire team for World News Tonight. I'm Whit Johnson in New York. Have a great day.
This has been a special report from ABC News.